Hating on Blizzard is quite a popular thing now, apparently. If you asked me 2 years ago if this was even physically possible, I would have likely shook my head in disbelief. I've been playing World of Warcraft for over a decade, enjoyed Heroes of the Storm for a good while, wanted to toss my phone against the wall when playing Hearthstone, but kept playing it regardless, and obviously I've been addicted to Overwatch pretty much since launch. Blizzard created amazing platforms for me to make friends and awesome experiences along the way. This is why 2018 was such a painful year, not only for me, but for many more fans of Blizzard IPs. Fans whose experience and history with this company goes far beyond mine. A lot of the criticism leveraged against Activision Blizzard comes from a place of tough love. We've been invested in their games for many years and want to keep playing them for many more. The idea that Blizzard games would not be supported for a long time seemed very outlandish not too long ago. But of course, with every media scandal comes a lot of hate from all the wrong places. It becomes difficult to distinguish between bandwagon haters and genuine fans who are upset about Blizzard's turn for the worse. And I would lie if I said that this was entirely unjustified. Naturally, I don't like to see people jump on the train and send hate towards Blizzard simply because it is now popular to do so. Much in the same way that I get annoyed with people sending hate towards Epic Games and Fortnite only because it's popular to hate on what's popular. But what worries me in the case of Activision Blizzard is that all the thoughtless hate has the potential to drown the genuine criticism that is needed for Blizzard to find a footing once more. It seems obvious that they are now out of touch with a passionate community that holds them to a very high standard. Players have removed the rose-tinted glasses and no longer forgive their mishaps, which even in the past there were many to count. Instead, they are now being scrutinized for every single tiny mistake that they make. Fans and dedicated communities forgive mistakes when they feel that the apology is genuine and when they feel like the desire for improvement is there. When Epic Games ruined a $1 million tournament by running it on a patch including a broken item, they apologized and removed the item out of the game for the time being. An apology does not make a mistake undone, but it shows us that a company, often seen as a behemoth with no emotion, understands the frustration of a player who feels like they are yelling up against the wall. In a recent video of mine, I talked about how admitting mistakes can cause a player base to feel bothered by something that they previously did not think about at all, creating criticism on something that doesn't honestly matter to all of them. I stand by what I said at the time because it very much feels like this is what Activision and Blizzard are doing. Never admitting mistakes anymore because they are afraid of making an already bad situation even worse. They don't have the luxury of being at the top anymore, so any mistake they admit to can make things disproportionately worse. And to me it feels like they only chose this approach over a genuine apology like we have seen it from Epic Games because unlike them, Activision and Blizzard have no intention of actually improving on their mistakes, at least at this time. Rather, they are looking for band-aid solutions to try and appease the angry mob of players that has now rallied against them. Yes, admitting fault can make things worse, but if the desire for improvement is there, then an apology makes a behemoth look much more human, and forgiveness can come where previously only anger was to be found. Diablo fans were not necessarily upset about a mobile Diablo experience. They were upset about how out of touch the developers were with their community. That the only announcement for them during this BlizzCon was a reskin in Diablo colors for a platform they didn't care about. Do you not have phones was the nail in the coffin that reinforced their lack of understanding for their core community. World of Warcraft fans were not upset about Blizzard highlighting the downsides of bringing back an old-school vanilla experience for their MMO. They were upset about the fact that they had the audacity to dictate what the players are allowed to want. You think you do, but you don't, reinforce their position of ignorance towards one of their oldest, most loyal communities. Esports are not for everyone, and nobody understands that more than the Overwatch community. We weren't too upset about the fact that Blizzard was trying to manufacture an esports league, but we hated that they did it at the cost of our gameplay experience, taking resources away from an already small development team to create the Overwatch League while leaving the game itself barren and under-supported. The disconnect between what players want and what Blizzard dictates we should want never seemed more apparent than throughout the lifespan of Overwatch. A game that is ultimately about choice, leaving the players with no such thing. We may be able to switch heroes whenever we like, but what about the maps, the cosmetics, the way we approach the game? Their refusal to implement a system allowing players which maps and game modes they do and don't want to play in a casual queue shows that Blizzard does not care about how much we do and don't like what they have created. No matter how poorly designed a map or game mode is, we should have to play it anyway. They rather force us to play something we don't want to than risking any increase in queue time whatsoever. ever, let alone admitting to their faults and redesigning what is widely considered an abysmal game mode in the form of 2CP. And this design philosophy of telling us how to have fun extends even to World of Warcraft, where just recently they have taken away our ability to reset our mythic keystones. In short, the result is the same as in Overwatch. They force us to play dungeons that are widely considered terrible simply because they don't like us gravitating towards what's more fun. And I am only scratching the surface here. The reason that so many of us are so upset is not only because we feel as though they spit in the face of their customers and loyal communities, but also because we know what they are capable of doing. We know that Activision has the funds necessary to resolve a lot of these issues if they only decided to do so. Blizzard is not an indie developer that should have to choose between either supporting Overwatch or the Overwatch League. And in that same vein, they shouldn't have to choose between either supporting Heroes of the Storm or a number of undisclosed projects. I will not be so audacious as to claim that I know how the Heroes of the Storm community feels after being told that their favorite game is not worth the resources, and that they would sacrifice its update cycle in favor of other IPs. I will not assume what it feels like to pour years of your life into an esport just to be told that your platform will no longer be supported in 2019. We have far surpassed the point of tough love in which all of our criticism is made in hopes of things improving, because it seems obvious that Blizzard has lost their touch. Whether it's thanks to Activision or not does not matter anymore. We have reached a point of pure and utter desperation. We have reached a point where us crying out has reached far outside our own communities, where things are turning for the worse over and over again, and more hate from the general gaming community is generated towards something they are not even involved in. We have shown Hello Games what it means to lie to our faces about No Man's Sky. We have shown Bethesda what it means to ruin a beloved IP for a quick buck. We have shown EA and DICE that replying to criticism with "don't buy our game then" will get you exactly where you deserve to be. All of these were cases in which the general gaming community banded together to show a developer that we will not take this shit unanswered anymore. And much in that same vein, we have shown Blizzard that yes, we do indeed have phones, and boy do we know how to use them. Yes, hating Blizzard is indeed very popular right now, but don't imagine even for a second that we prefer this over them going back to their old ways. There will always be those who shout indiscriminately, but at the end of the day, most of us who care about Blizzard and their IPs really just want one thing. We want them to care about their games more than about their shareholders. We need more developers and publishers like CD Projekt Red, Epic Games and Nintendo, and less bullshittery in the likes of Activision and EA. And don't get me wrong, nobody is free of fault in this lineup either, but there are good reasons why players love The Witcher 3, Fortnite and Smash Bros Ultimate so much, and why all that Activision and EA are getting recently is bad press. There are people behind these names and people make mistakes, but some of them simply feel more human than others. I'm not saying to treat developers as though they are friends of ours, because obviously at the end of the day they are trying to sell us a product, but I understand the reasoning and thought process behind what CD Projekt Red has been doing with Cyberpunk, but I have absolutely no idea what moves and motivates Activision Blizzard anymore. I hate that I still love Overwatch, because honestly, I wish I could just move on. And it's not like I'm lacking exposure. I've been playing a lot of different games this year, from Destiny 2 and Black Ops 4 all the way to God of War, Spider-Man, Hitman 2 and Shadow of the Colossus. I love playing different games, but there's just nothing quite like Overwatch to me. And that's why giving up on it is so difficult. And I like to imagine that a lot of the voices crying out against Blizzard feel similarly about their own games, whether we're talking about Diablo, Heroes of the Storm, or World of Warcraft. I like to imagine that none of us want to give up despite how dire it seems for all of us right now. And I also imagine that this is really difficult for somebody to understand looking in from the outside. Even at the risk of all this sounding incredibly stupid to you, I felt the need to talk about it. Hating Blizzard is very popular right now, but at the end of the day, I still can't get myself to actually hate them. I only hate what they have become.